I got home on a Thursday. Early. That wasn't the plan. My flight back from Phoenix got bumped up last minute, which almost never happens, and I figured, why not just head straight home? I was picturing a low-key night with takeout and Taylor, maybe decompressing on the couch while she played one of those moody documentaries she pretends not to get emotionally attached to. She always says she watches them for the editing choices. But I've seen her cry when a golden retriever survives a fire. She's not fooling anybody. I had this whole image in my head. Her in sweatpants. Our cat, Bean, curled up on her lap. Maybe she'd look up when I came through the door and pretend to be mad for not telling her I was coming early. But only pretend. Instead, I walked into something different. The apartment was quiet. Not the usual peaceful kind of quiet. The kind that says, no one's here. At first, I thought maybe she ran out for coffee. The lights were dim, just the way she liked them. No sound. No Bean either. But then I noticed the smell. Our place has a distinct rhythm to it. A smell you only really notice when it's wrong. Usually it's a mix of lavender from her candles and whatever detergent we're using that week. But this time, it smelled like citrus? Musk? Like some cologne I'd never worn, but definitely recognized. It lingered faintly in the air, like whoever it belonged to had just left. Not hours ago. Not days. Minutes. That was my first signal. I tossed my bag by the door and walked further in. The living room looked pristine. Suspiciously so. The throw blanket she always leaves crumpled on the armrest. Perfectly folded. The little bowl of random junk on the coffee table. Bobby pins, chapstick, gum wrappers was missing entirely. And then I saw it. A shirt. Hanging lazily over the arm of the couch like it had claimed the place as its own. It was a men's button-down. Light blue. A little wrinkled. Like it had been peeled off in a hurry. It wasn't mine. Wrong fabric, wrong brand, wrong size. I checked the collar tag. Medium. I wear a large. Now, at this point, my stomach hadn't dropped yet. Not fully. I just stood there, blinking at it, hoping there was some boring, plausible explanation. Maybe it was mine and I just forgot I owned it. Or maybe she picked it up at Goodwill. Maybe her friend's boyfriend left it. I didn't touch it. I turned down the hall toward the bathroom. Same eerie neatness. Fresh towels. Her makeup tray wiped clean. Our toothbrush holder, the one we got from that random Etsy shop in Santa Cruz, had a third toothbrush in it. Green. Neon green like something from a starter pack. Still standing straight up, barely used. That was when the pit started forming in my gut. I opened the bedroom door next. And that's when I really felt it, the intrusion. The scent was strongest there. Not hers. Not mine. Someone else's. The sheets had been smoothed out, but not washed. There was a glass of water on her nightstand. 2 coasters, both with faint rings. I backed out like I was trespassing in my own home. I didn't yell. I didn't call her. I just sat on the edge of the couch, across from that shirt, and waited. Not doing anything. Just letting the pieces try to settle into some kind of pattern. I kept staring at that shirt like it was some weird puzzle piece that didn't belong in the box I thought we'd built together. 34 minutes later, I checked. The lock clicked. She walked in like it was just any other Thursday. Bottle of red wine in one hand, tote bag over her shoulder. Keys jangling. She froze when she saw me. "Oh," she said, catching her breath. "You're back early." I nodded. Flight got moved up. She walked in slower now, carefully, like she was recalculating. Then her eyes flicked, just for a second, to the shirt on the couch. And just as quickly, back to me. "I wasn't expecting you," she said, voice too light. "Yeah," I replied. "I figured I'd surprise you." She set the bottle down on the counter. "You definitely did." I didn't say anything, just let the silence stretch. She looked over at the shirt like it had only now entered her awareness. "Oh," she said again casually, almost too casually. "That's my brother's. He stayed over last night on his way to LA. I kept my expression neutral. "Your brother?" She nodded, already moving into the kitchen. "Yeah, Logan. He's doing that road trip thing with his band again. Needed a place to crash. Funny thing is, Logan hasn't visited in almost a year. I only remembered that detail because the last time he was here, he brought his girlfriend, and Taylor spent the whole weekend annoyed because he left wet towels on the bed. I stood up slowly. He didn't call while I was gone. She opened a drawer, closed it, opened another one. Yeah, he texted me. It was last minute. He was only here one night. I walked toward the hallway. So he used our shower? Yeah. And slept in our bed? He was tired. And left his toothbrush behind? She turned then, gave me this long, deliberate look like I was the one overstepping. What is this, Nick? She asked, arms folding. You get back from a trip and immediately start snooping around like I'm hiding something? I didn't snoop, I said. I came home. That's all I did. You're acting like I did something wrong. I didn't answer. Not directly. I just glanced at the shirt again, then at her. You're always doing this, she said. Her voice was sharpening now. Looking for cracks in things. Reading into everything. It's exhausting. That word again. Exhausting. She's used it before. Whenever I ask about the late nights, the disappearing posts, the messages that get deleted before I can even blink. I used to believe her, or at least I tried to. She kept going. My brother needed a place to stay. That's all. I let him crash. He borrowed my toothpaste. I don't know what version of that story you're spinning in your head, but maybe take a second and realize not everything is about you being suspicious. I didn't interrupt. I just watched her. The way her hands fidgeted near the wine bottle, how she wouldn't look directly at me when she said, my brother. She added, you've got to stop overthinking. It's like you're always looking for some hidden betrayal, and it's messing with your head. That one landed. I felt it in my chest. And maybe she was right. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe I was seeing ghosts in the wallpaper. But deep down, and I mean in the place where your instincts live, I knew something wasn't adding up. I'd never seen her wear that shade of lipstick before. The one she was wearing now. Bright, loud, like she was trying to look like someone else for a night. Her earrings were mismatched, the way they get when you pull them off in a rush. She had 2 phones in her tote bag. I could hear both vibrate. And yet I said nothing. Not because I believed her, but because something inside me had gone quiet. I walked over to the counter and picked up the wine bottle. Red. Merlot. She hated Merlot. You bought this for your brother? I asked. She hesitated. No, that's for us. I was going to surprise you. I nodded slowly, and that's when I knew. Couldn't say how. It wasn't the shirt or the toothbrush or the wine. It was her face, the way her smile didn't reach her eyes, the way her explanation arrived too quickly, like it had been waiting. I didn't argue. I just told her I was tired from the flight, that I needed to lie down. I let her go on pretending nothing was wrong. Let her pour herself a glass and settle on the couch like she hadn't just gaslit me in our own apartment. But something shifted in me that night. Quietly. Permanently. It was the moment I realized the version of Taylor I'd been holding on to, the one I loved, trusted, built a life around, wasn't the one standing in front of me anymore. Or maybe she never was. After that night, something in me changed. It wasn't a sharp break, like a bone snapping. More like a hairline fracture that had been there all along, finally widening enough for light to spill through. For the first few days, I tried to ignore it. I went back to work, answered emails, smiled through meetings, did everything I was supposed to do. But underneath it all, my mind was turning over every little moment I'd filed away and never revisited. Now they all felt connected. I started remembering things I'd brushed off at the time. There was that weekend in June. She'd said she was staying at her friend Chelsea's beach house. Just the girls. No guys allowed. When she got home, her phone was wiped clean of photos. I only noticed because she normally took dozens of pictures when she was with her friends. Half of them weren't even for Instagram, just little candids she liked to show me later. But that time, nothing. Not one. I'd asked her about it and she just said, "Oh, we were too busy talking to take pictures." And back then, I believed her. I wanted to. Now I realized maybe there were pictures, just not the kind she wanted me to see. There were her work trips, too. God, I should have caught it earlier. The one to Austin last November stood out the most. She had told me her company was flying her out for a 3-day conference. I didn't think much of it. She travels for work all the time. But when she got back, her suitcase was oddly light. She claimed it was just carry-on stuff. But she'd packed 3 pairs of sneakers and came back with only one. And that one pair looked like it had never been worn. At the time, I asked her if she'd bought new ones while she was there. She laughed and said no. She probably just didn't pack everything. Travel brain, she'd called it. What I should have asked. Who were you packing for? It all started coming back like static, finally turning into a signal. Moments I'd half forgotten because I wanted to forget them. One time I found a restaurant receipt on the kitchen counter. She'd gone out while I was away visiting my dad in Santa Barbara. The name of the place didn't register until later. It was a spot we talked about trying together, one of those trendy restaurants that only serve tasting menus, mostly aimed at couples. The kind of place you made a reservation at a month ahead. The receipt was for 2 people. I remember holding it in my hand, staring at the line that said, Chef's Pairing X2. I asked her if she went out with a friend and she waved it off. Said she and her coworker Mia had gone to treat themselves. When I suggested we try it together sometime, she said she was already kind of over it. That felt off, but I let it go. Letting things go had become second nature to me. I didn't want to be that guy, the paranoid boyfriend, the insecure husband, the one who turns every conversation into an interrogation. So I buried it all. Every late-night call she stepped outside to take. Every time she angled her phone away from me just a little too sharply. The nights she claimed she was sleeping over at a friend's place after drinks because she was too tipsy to drive, but came home the next morning looking like she hadn't slept at all. She'd always been good at giving me just enough explanation to keep me from asking more. But now I started looking at those moments differently. I noticed how she never left her phone unattended anymore. Even when she went to the bathroom. How she started wearing new clothes. Stuff I hadn't seen her buy, and claimed it was old stuff she'd found in her closet. How the passwords to our shared streaming accounts had been changed. And when I asked about it, she said it must have been an auto reset. Everything had an answer. That was the problem. One morning, I opened the fridge and noticed the milk was expired. I realized I hadn't been home in almost a week, and neither had she. Which begged the question, who was staying here? Why was the apartment so perfectly clean every time I came back? Yet nothing in it was used. Then there were the pictures on her phone. Not the ones she posted. The ones she deleted. I'd seen her do it once. We were on the couch watching a movie, and she was flipping through her camera roll. She stopped on a picture and hovered her finger over the trash icon. I asked what it was. She said it was blurry, not worth keeping. I asked to see it. She hesitated. That half-second pause, the one where someone considers lying or not, it told me more than the picture ever could. It's nothing, she said. Just one of those accidental ones. And then it was gone. But the pattern was forming. She always had a story, and I always let it stand. The worst part? I didn't even know who I was more angry at, her, for the lying, or me, for letting it happen. There were nights I'd sit on the edge of the bed and wonder if I was losing my mind. Wonder if I was imagining it all. Maybe I was being too controlling. Maybe I was just insecure. She told me once, during a fight, that I was paranoid by nature. Said it like it was a flaw she had to manage. I think that was her favorite trick, turning my concern into character flaws. If I asked a question, I was interrogating. If I noticed something off, I was overanalyzing. If I pulled away, I was cold or withholding. Everything was a reaction to me, never a reflection of her. But now that the cracks were showing, they were impossible to ignore. And instead of confronting her, I started collecting them. In my mind at first, then on paper. I kept a little notebook tucked in my desk drawer, the one where we kept warranties and spare batteries and never looked unless the Wi-Fi was down. In it, I started writing down the dates she was working late, the times she left and came back without explanation, and the stories that didn't quite match up. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about catching her. I think it was about staying sane. Because when someone lies to you long enough, you start second-guessing your own reality. I began noticing how she responded when I told her my own plans. If I said I'd be home late, she wouldn't ask why. Not because she trusted me, but because she expected me to be gone. She'd already scheduled around it. She used to text me midday, random stuff. Memes, a funny moment from her office, a picture of being doing something ridiculous. Now I was lucky if I got a "hope your meeting went well." She was drifting, and I had convinced myself I couldn't reach her because I was the problem. But now I knew better. One night around 2 a.m., I heard her phone buzz on the nightstand. She was asleep beside me or pretending to be. I turned slightly, just enough to glance at the screen. A preview of a message lit up. "I miss you already." No name, no contact photo. Just that one sentence, cutting through the dark. She didn't stir. I didn't touch the phone. I lay there in silence, my heart thudding against my ribs. That one line said everything. I didn't ask her about it. I didn't confront her. I didn't even react. Because if I did, she'd find a way to twist it. Say it was her cousin. Say it was an inside joke. Say it was nothing. That's when I realized. Confronting her wouldn't give me the truth. I had to find it myself. And the moment I made that decision, to stop accepting her version of events, I felt something strange. Not power, not peace, but clarity. I couldn't unknow what I knew. I couldn't unsee what I'd seen. It was all there, scattered across months. Receipts, trips, stories, expressions that didn't match the words coming out of her mouth. The truth wasn't a moment. It was a mosaic. And I'd finally stepped far enough back to see it for what it was. I didn't know who he was yet. Not exactly. But I knew one thing: he existed. And I was going to find him. The decision to stop asking questions came quietly. Not in anger, not even in pain. Just a tired, steady realization that if I wanted the truth, I'd have to stop waiting for it to come from her lips. Because the truth was never going to come from Taylor. Not directly. If it did, it'd already be here. Instead, it was going to come in pieces, in slips, in digital shadows she forgot to sweep. And that's exactly where I found it. It happened on a Sunday morning. She'd left earlier than usual. I asked if she wanted coffee before heading out, and she said she was already running late for a team strategy session at the downtown office. A last-minute thing. She didn't even stay for breakfast. Just grabbed her laptop and left with her phone already pressed to her ear. I stood in the kitchen afterward, staring at the untouched toast she left behind. Strawberry jam. Her favorite. She hadn't taken a single bite. Maybe that's what pushed me. Maybe it was the fact that she didn't have time for the things she used to love. Not me, not breakfast, not anything that didn't serve whatever version of herself she was off being when I wasn't around. I wasn't looking for anything in particular when I opened the drawer. Just clutter, mostly receipts, chargers, dead pens, things we never threw out but didn't need. That's when I saw it. The old tablet. We used to share it before we both got newer devices. It was thick, heavy, cracked in the corner. I hadn't thought about it in months. Maybe a year. I almost didn't turn it on. But something told me to, some gut feeling I'd learned to stop ignoring. When the screen lit up, I half expected it to freeze. But it didn't. After a few minutes of slow startup, the home screen appeared. A few apps blinked into place, weather, music, gallery, a couple of old games. But what caught my eye was the little notification bubble in the corner. An unread message. I tapped on the messaging app, not really thinking. And that's when I saw it. J.H. Just two initials. Not a full name. Not a contact photo. Just J.H. There were more than a few messages. Some short. Some stretched out into paragraphs. The most recent one was timestamped the night before, while I was asleep next to her. J.H. He won't be home tomorrow. I'll bring your favorite wine. It hit like a punch to the ribs. Not because it was vulgar. Not because it was romantic. But because of how casual it was. Familiar. Coordinated. Like a plan that had already been rehearsed. I sat there for a long moment, just staring at the words. Then I scrolled back through the thread. They didn't use names. No babe. No love. No emojis. It was all coded, careful, like they knew how dangerous their trail could be. But it didn't matter. The int *Macy was baked into the silences. The timing. The way they talked about windows of opportunity. One message caught me by the throat. J.H. Should I leave the backpack again? And then, attached below it, a photo. My breath hitched when I saw it. It was Taylor. In our bedroom. She was wearing one of her oversized sweatshirts. The kind she only wore to sleep, and smiling toward the camera, like she just rolled out of bed. In the background, resting against the foot of the bed, was a black backpack. Faded canvas. Brown leather straps. I'd never seen it before that day. But that same morning, I swear to God, I'd seen a man walk down the hallway outside our unit carrying that exact backpack. He wasn't from the building. I knew all the regulars. He had earbuds in, head down, walking like he didn't want to be noticed. It wasn't a coincidence. It was the missing link. Suddenly, the green toothbrush, the cologne, the shirt on the couch, they weren't just weird anomalies anymore. They were his J.H. Whoever he was. I opened the image file info. It was time-stamped. From 3 days ago. A weekday. She told me she had a migraine that day and needed to sleep it off. She'd asked me not to come home for lunch because she didn't want to be seen like that. What she meant, apparently, was, don't interrupt. I took a deep breath and sat back, phone trembling in my hand. I felt cold all over. Not rage, just this sinking chill in my chest. Like my heart had stopped pumping warmth and switched to ice. This wasn't a theory anymore. It wasn't a bad dream or a spiral of overthinking. This was proof. Real, undeniable proof. I stared at the chat again, the short, clinical way they planned around me. Around my schedule. Around my absence. Like I was a calendar event. A footnote. That's when I knew I had to stop being passive. No more waiting. I grabbed my phone and opened the camera. One by one, I ****ed the chat. Every message, every timestamp, every image. I didn't know what I was going to do with it yet, but I wasn't going to let it vanish. I saved everything to a private cloud folder she didn't have access to. I checked the tablet settings. The cloud sync was still on, which meant everything she typed or sent on her phone was still mirroring here. Probably without her realizing. How poetic. The one piece of tech she forgot to destroy ended up being the very thing that exposed her. I went deeper, into her synced photo albums. There were dozens of images, some that hadn't been posted anywhere. Candids, food, drinks, her reflection in mirrors, and sometimes a second glass. A hand, a glimpse of a sleeve that wasn't mine. One photo stopped me cold. It was taken in a hotel room. Not a fancy one, just clean and neutral. Beige walls. A small balcony. She was in a robe, holding a glass of champagne. The photo was cropped at her collarbone. But in the mirror behind her, slightly blurred, was a man's shoulder. Gray t-shirt. Tattoo just peeking out from under the sleeve. She had told me she was at a leadership retreat that week. Women only, she'd said. No distractions. Right. I stared at the guy in the background. Zoomed in. The tattoo looked like a compass. Or a clock. It was hard to tell. But what I did know, with sickening certainty, was that I had never seen it before. It didn't belong to anyone in our life. Not friends. Not co-workers. Not family. He was a ghost. And she was letting him haunt our life. That afternoon, I sat on the floor of our bedroom and scrolled through everything. Not like a man spying on his wife, but like a detective trying to reconstruct a crime scene. Because it was a crime. Not the legal kind, but the emotional kind. The kind where someone robs you of the version of reality you thought was true and replaces it with smoke. I didn't cry. I didn't break anything. I just sat there, still, silent, and let the truth flood in. Felt like wading underwater. And when I finally stood up, I wasn't the same. I wasn't naive anymore. I wasn't guessing. I knew. And knowing changed everything. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't always come with fireworks. There's no dramatic thunderclap. No movie-style confrontation. Sometimes it's quiet. A whisper behind the heart. And once it settles, you don't scream. You vanish. That's what I did. I didn't confront Taylor. I didn't throw the tablet at her feet or storm into her fake office meeting to cause a scene. I didn't leave a dramatic letter on the kitchen counter or pack up in a rage. No, that would have been too easy for her to deflect. Too easy to twist the story into something else. Into me being unstable, emotional, controlling. I left the next morning, calm, methodical. She'd gone out early again, claiming she had a client meeting before noon. I waited until I heard the elevator doors close. I gave it 5 minutes, just in case, then walked into the bedroom, opened the closet, and pulled out my old gym bag. I didn't take much. That was the point. Just the essentials: my passport, social security card, birth certificate, bank documents I didn't trust to leave behind. I slid them all into a folder and tucked it between 2 rolled-up t-shirts. No tech, no laptop, no charger. Just the tablet, the one that had started all of this, and my phone. Everything else I left untouched. Like I was still coming back. That's how it had to look. I didn't leave a note. I didn't take a suitcase. To anyone walking in, it would seem like I had just stepped out for coffee. And then I disappeared. I drove for hours. No music. No podcasts. Just silence and freeway. Somewhere around San Clemente, I realized I didn't have a destination. I didn't want to stay with friends. I didn't want anyone to know yet. If she started asking around, I wanted everyone to answer honestly. I don't know where he is. Eventually, I pulled off near a small roadside diner that looked like it hadn't changed since the 80s. The parking lot was cracked, the windows fogged up from the fryers, and the neon vacancy sign across the street buzzed faintly in the dusk. I walked in and asked for a room. The motel manager, a quiet man with nicotine-stained fingers, gave me a key and didn't ask for more than a first name and cash. Perfect. That first night in the motel I couldn't sleep. Not because of guilt or fear, but because my brain was sprinting. I kept thinking about all the ways she might spin this. All the ways she'd try to control the story once she realized I was gone. That's when I knew I had to collect everything. Not for revenge. For defense. I wasn't going to lose my sanity and my story. If this ever turned into a legal battle, and something told me it would, I had to be ready. I got to work the next morning. First step, I made a new email account. One she didn't know. Something generic. I gave it a neutral password, activated 2-factor authentication, and synced it to a new cloud folder. Then I uploaded every screenshot *T from the tablet. The messages, the photos, the metadata. I organized them into folders by date and context. Messages, photos, locations, code words, cross-references. I started compiling receipts, bank charges, hotel bookings, Uber pickups. I didn't need to hack anything. Most of it was still in our shared email or synced to the old calendar app she never deleted. That's where I found a hotel reservation under T. Scott. It wasn't her full name. It wasn't her usual email. But it was linked to her alternate Gmail, the one she used for newsletter spam and online returns. And under the booking there were 2 guests. She'd once told me she was volunteering at a fundraiser that weekend. I took a screenshot *T of the reservation. Matched the dates with messages from J.H. They lined up perfectly. I found 4 more like it. Different cities. Different aliases. Always during times she claimed to be recharging or working late or taking space. I didn't spiral. I documented. I went back through our shared photos and flagged every date she'd been unaccounted for. Then I checked the background, mirrors, reflections, bags, wine glasses. Once you're looking for patterns, it's all there. I wasn't looking for an apology. I wasn't looking for answers. I was building a wall, brick by brick. Something to stand behind when the storm came. Because I knew her. Taylor couldn't stand not knowing. And once she realized I'd left, really left, she'd go straight into control mode. She always had a story. But now I had one too. Started on day 4. The first message. Taylor. Hey, are you okay? You're not answering. Can you call me? I didn't reply. Day 5. Taylor, seriously, Nick. Where are you? This isn't funny. Still nothing. Day 6. Taylor, I've called your office. Your boss said you haven't checked in. Are you having some kind of breakdown? I almost laughed. A breakdown? That's what she was going with? Day 7. Taylor, I'm starting to worry. Just tell me you're alive. That's all I need. I'll give you space if you need it. That was the calm phase. The concerned wife act. I recognized it. By day 9, it shifted. Taylor, Nick, you can't just vanish like this. It's not normal. Your behavior is scaring people. I told your sister you've been acting weird. And there it was, the rewriting of reality. I knew what she was doing. If she could paint me as unstable, the rest of the story didn't have to make sense. She could act like the victim, like I'd overreacted to something harmless, like I had a tendency toward suspicion, and this time I just took it too far. But I wasn't reacting. I was watching, and that scared her more than anything. In the motel, I kept my world small. No social media, no credit cards. I paid cash for food, walked everywhere. No location pings, no digital trail. In the evenings, I went through the tablet again. Every night, I found something new, some tiny clue I'd missed before. A receipt for sushi, dated the night of my mother's birthday. She told me she had food poisoning and couldn't come. The message from J.H. That night, J.H. Tonight was perfect. Let's do it again soon. I saved it. Another from when I was out of town for work. J.H. Do you think he knows? Taylor, he never knows. I saved that one twice. Somewhere between the silence and the screech asterisk ts, I started feeling something unexpected. Relief. Not peace. Not closure. But clarity. For the first time in months, maybe years, I didn't feel crazy. I didn't feel paranoid. I had proof. She couldn't lie this away. Not this time. On day 11, I backed everything up to an external drive. I labeled it receipts, slid it into a padded envelope, and stored it in a locker at a UPS drop-off point near Oceanside. I emailed myself the code and deleted the message immediately. That night, I stood outside my motel room and looked out at the empty parking lot. It was strange. I had no home, no plan, no real future mapped out. But I had one thing. Control. For the first time since I saw that stupid shirt on the couch, I was back in control of something. And that was enough. It took her 11 days to realize silence was louder than shouting. By then, her texts had gone from soft concern to sharp accusations. They came in waves, rapid fire in the morning, quieter by night. Maybe she thought I was reading them in real time. Maybe she hoped I was watching her spiral and would come running just to put her mind at ease. She didn't understand yet. I wasn't watching her. I was watching the version of her I'd never seen before. The one unraveling when no one fed her control. First, it was the same sweet act. The concerned partner tone that would play well if she told her friends the story later. Taylor, I'm really starting to get scared. Please just tell me you're okay. I don't need anything else. Just that. Followed by, Taylor, Nick, if you need space, that's fine. But this disappearing act is not like you. You're worrying people. That's when I knew she'd started pulling others into it. I called my sister from a payphone. Not because I needed to talk, but to make sure she wasn't falling for the story Taylor was spinning. I don't know what's going on, my sister said, her voice unsure. Taylor said you had some kind of breakdown, that you were under a lot of pressure. I kept my voice calm. I'm fine. That's it? She asked. Where are you? I'll tell you when I'm ready. Just don't worry. And don't believe everything you're being told. Nick, I mean it, I said. I'm not in danger. I just needed distance. There was silence on the other end. Then, okay. I hung up before she could press for more. I didn't want to lie, but I couldn't tell the full truth yet either. Not until I had all the pieces in place. Day 12. Taylor posted a photo of us on Instagram. It was from last year, one of those vacation pictures she used to stage when we still pretended we were happy. We were in Big Sur, smiling on a cliff. In the caption, she wrote, "Missing this one. Broken heart, come home soon." That was her first public move. A soft launch of the narrative. To everyone else, it would seem like I'd left unexpectedly. Private matter, sure, but innocent enough. Sad wife. Absent husband. Sympathy magnet. I watched as the comments came in. Hope everything's okay. Sending love. He'll come back. You two are soulmates. I didn't feel rage. Just a quiet kind of detachment. She was trying to get ahead of it. If she controlled the public version of the story, then maybe, just maybe, she could get me to fold behind the scenes. After all, what's the use in holding secrets when everyone else thinks you're the villain? But I didn't bite. She texted again that night. Taylor, I don't know why you're doing this, but if this is some punishment for me being human, then congrats. You got what you wanted. I look like an idiot. You happy now? That word, punishment, caught me. So that's what she thought this was? Some game of vengeance? She still didn't get it. This wasn't revenge. This was me removing myself from a story she kept rewriting. On day 13, she finally broke character. Taylor, are you even reading these? Taylor, if you wanted to punish me, fine. You win. But don't pretend like you're blameless. Taylor, you've been distant for a long time, Nick. You don't let people in. You expect me to carry the emotional weight of this marriage. So yeah, I screwed up. But you did too. There it was. The pivot. If she couldn't win sympathy, she'd try guilt. I read the messages once. Then again, just to see if they still made me feel something. They didn't. It was like watching an old tape of someone I used to love. The face was familiar. The voice had the same cadence. But the meaning? Gone. She followed it up with a longer message. Taylor, I don't know why I did what I did. Maybe I felt like you'd already left me long before you walked out that door. You stopped seeing me, Nick. I mean really seeing me. You used to notice when I was quiet. You used to ask how I slept. Lately, it's like you were always just gone. Even when you were here. I'm not saying that excuses anything. But I needed to say it. I'm sorry. The apology came too late. Too carefully constructed. It wasn't regret. It was damage control. I knew her tells by now. The careful pacing. The almost admissions. The way she made it about her pain before acknowledging mine. I took a **T of the message and filed it into a new folder, Gaslight Archive. By the end of that day, she tried a new tactic. She sent a photo of Bean, our cat. Taylor, he misses you. Then, Taylor, I do too. It hurt, I won't lie. Bean had nothing to do with this. And for a brief second, I felt the ache. The life we built, the little routines, the shared playlists, the holidays, the small jokes only we understood. They hadn't been illusions. But they'd been anchored to a version of Taylor I now knew was a costume. And you can't mourn the costume without realizing it was always a disguise. I didn't reply. Day 14. 2 full weeks. That's when she showed up at my parents' place. They didn't even know what to say when they called me. Taylor's here, my mom said, voice tight. She said she's looking for you, my dad added. I imagined the scene. Taylor on the doorstep, face carefully tired, like she hadn't slept, but still presentable. Just enough to seem lost but strong. Don't let her in, I said. There was silence. I mean it, I added. Don't invite her inside. If she wants to talk, do it from the porch. They listened. Later, my mom texted. She said she just wanted to know if you're safe. I didn't answer. It was exhausting keeping the silence. But I had to. Taylor thrived on reaction. It was her oxygen. I wasn't going to be the one feeding her anymore. On day 15, she went quiet. No messages. No calls. No sad selfies. No Instagram stories. Just a sudden digital blackout. I should have felt relief. But what I felt instead was the shift. The moment the storm paused before it came back twice as hard. I was right, because on day 16, she tried to flip the switch entirely. Taylor, Nick, you left. Without a word. Without explanation. That's emotional abuse. I stared at the screen. That word. Abuse. Rang in my head like a cracked bell. This was her last play. Paint me as unstable. Cold. Detached. Dangerous, even. If she said it enough, maybe someone would believe it. Maybe I would. But I had the truth. I had the photos. The emails. The messages. And more than anything, I had the silence. Because silence, when it comes from someone who's always been quiet, doesn't mean nothing. It means, I've seen enough. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to rage. I just had to hold the line and watch her lose control trying to take it back. That night, I sat in the motel parking lot, sky wide open above me, my breath misting in the air. I thought about the years we'd spent together, the apartment, the cat, the Sunday rituals, the nights she fell asleep on my chest, the long drives up the coast, the birthday letters, the whispered promises, and I wondered if any of it had been real. The cruel thing about betrayal is that it doesn't just make you question the future, it rewrites your past. You start pulling threads, and eventually the whole tapestry unravels. That's what Taylor never understood. She didn't just cheat on me, she unmade everything we built. And that's something no apology can glue back together. I went back once. Not to talk, not to argue, just to collect what was mine. Taylor didn't expect me. She opened the door, her face lighting up like nothing had happened. "You're back," she said, hopeful, rehearsed. I walked past her without a word, gathering my documents, heirlooms, and photos she didn't bother to hide. She tried to talk, to explain, to pull me back into her story. I didn't let her. I looked at her, really looked, and saw someone who mistook manipulation for love. "You turned our life into a performance," I said, "and I turned yours into a consequence." Then I left. No yelling, no breakdown, just the sound of a door closing behind me. Weeks passed. I didn't reply to her texts, didn't answer calls. I moved into a small place, quiet and unfamiliar, but mine. I bought furniture I liked. I made coffee in silence. Then one night, she came to the door holding an envelope, divorce papers signed. "I won't fight it," she said. She tried to speak, but I stopped her. "You said enough," I told her. "I just stayed quiet too long." She asked if I was happy now. I looked past her, toward the fading light. "Not yet," I said, "but I'm heading in the right direction." And I closed the door for good.